know what I'm into.
Likewise. I mean, yours are bigger than mine. Yeah, probably about the same.
Close.
They're having something wrong.
The only time you're on is when you're doing
Oh, yeah,
something
that's
for you,
right.
and you always mention it.
Because the sheriff's deputy.
Which is almost always
Daily.
not daily. I didn't see you guys today. Where were you today? I might have one in my bag, but I'm not sharing. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure it's.
So where does all that go?
The airport.
Like it, what do they do with it?
Yeah, really.
I think I've discovered that.
I did a whole interview. I changed it.
Very, very.
Karen? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to
Call earlier.
collect that paper.
Okay.
Call earlier.
I'll figure it out someday.
That's just that one. Actually, very
I was
important
on the line.
items to talk to you.
Why didn't you call for the very important?
So very important, I didn't call back. You ignored me once, I didn't need to be ignored twice. You enjoy having every route from my office blocked off in some fashion. I don't feel like crap driving around. Trying to avoid your closures.
Same.
This is a lot of fun, wasn't it?
John's kind of a funny guy. He's very serious, but
Yeah, we can start now.
All meeting order at 6 o'clock, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take roll.
Councilman Nelson.
Here.
Councilwoman Beck. Here. Councilwoman Campbell. Here. Councilman Hutchins.
Here.
Mayor James.
Moving on to approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Got second for discussion. The payroll, we get that changed to 36,117.50.
Do we have an AP number?
We don't. Good to know. Not this. Okay. Have a motion.
I'll revise my motion to approve as amended.
You want to do second that?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to approval of minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes of our regularly scheduled meeting on September 20th?
So moved.
One discussion, on item 25. It says the motion died for lack of a motion.
Oh.
The motion died for lack of a second.
Yes.
Second motion to approve as amended.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes from this special meeting on September 28th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to approval of the bills, for October 4th, 2022, is there a motion to approve deposits or from this September 19th to October 2nd, in the amount of $46,784?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve payroll for September 29th in the amount of $36,317.50?
Did we get to the bottom of the $100 discrepancy?
It was, yeah, it was just a mistake.
Which ones are correct?
The 36,317.50.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve transmittals for September 29th, in the amount of $11,527.15?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. First up on the correspondence is a community revitalization through Brownsville redevelopment. I think this went on through the Carbon County Economic Development Corporation in conjunction with technical assistance to Brownfields, Kansas State University, Wyoming DEQ. Looks like the workshop is Tuesday, October 25th from 1 to 3:45 in Sinclair. And go through that, there's three pages there. More information, you're to contact Cindy Martinez with Wyoming DEQ, Maggie Belanger at CSU tab, or Yvonne Johnson at Carbon County Economic. The correspondence regarding Gateway South. I have a letter here, says, Dear Mayor James, it's come to my attention that impact assistance payments in the caption matter were unnecessarily delayed. First, I would like to apologize for this inconvenience. Second, I would like to assure you that will not happen again. The industrial siting division is working with the Department of Revenue to rectify the matter promptly. Gateway South began construction on June 1st, 2022. With impact assistance payments scheduled for 26 months, the payments will follow the schedule determined in the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and order granting permit applications as if it had begun normally, with missing payments paid with the first impact assistance payment issued. Please let me know if you do not receive expected payments. My sincere apologies again. We respectfully, Alan Edwards, Industrial Siting Administrator and Deputy Director. Thank you. Were there any other correspondence?
There was that.
Okay. Moving on to items from the public. Anything from the public? Okay. Moving on to reports from departments. Starting in town hall. First up is invoice cloud.
So I have Tommy and Jeremy on Zoom right now, and I probably should have done this before, but can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, great, awesome. So they are here with Invoice Cloud, and they'll just give you a overview of what Invoice Cloud can do. And then I do want to add that I don't think Georgia mentioned it before, but with Invoice Cloud, it'll help with bank recs, because if it's connected to Cassell, that's a few steps that we don't have to check on. So it's just one thing. So y'all can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marie. Appreciate it. Just as she said, my name is Thomas, and I have Jeremy with me here as well. We're representatives, of course, from Invoice Cloud, and we've had the pleasure of working with Marie and Georgia these last few weeks. At a very high level, Invoice Cloud provides a complete and secure payment and presentment solution that's going to improve the payment process and make it easier for your residents to pay their bill. We help our customers increase customer satisfaction and improve collections efficiencies by offering that Fortune 100 experience that customers know, love, and expect. When we had spoke last, one of the big concerns was the paperless fee, of course, and how that fee would take away from some of the savings the town would see. We were able to actually get that fee waived to help significantly offset the cost of the platform through the print and mail savings that the town will see, not to mention, of course, the significant staff time saved as well. But again, this isn't just for Marie and Georgia. It's going to drastically improve the customer experience by removing the friction when making a payment for any resident who chooses to take advantage of that service. This is something, of course, working for Invoice Cloud, I could talk forever on, but I'm sure that you folks have some questions. So I'd like to, just open it up and, what can Jeremy and I answer for you?
So I, for one, have spent 3 days on reconciliations for the town. Injuries, like someone paid a building permit that was entered as a building permit and then again entered as a utility bill. So, and that was in March. And we were trying to reconcile those accounts that had not been able to, because the human factor is what we have right now is you have to enter the bill, right? So if it's coming in, how can your system prevent that from happening where we have to then back out that entry in October that happened in March?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the big challenges that we heard in talking to Marie and Georgia is that manual entry piece, right? When a payment's made, has to be manually entered. You have the human element there, where things can get entered in twice, that cause those sorts of problems. With Invoice Cloud's integration with Cassell, that can't happen. When we're talking about a utility bill, for example, that invoice, your resident can actually see that invoice and pay that invoice right there online. And no one from, Marie, Georgia, or the team need to actually touch that payment to enter it into Cassell. Through our real-time integration with them, it's automatically going to be entered in, and kind of taking out the human element that can cause at times problems. Right, because we can't reconcile right now because it's a double entry. Exactly. Because it was a building permit, but it was been double entered as a utility permit. Right. Yep. Right. Yeah, and because of the integration we have, it can't be double entered, right? It will only be a building permit in that, because there's, that's all part of the integration. Cassell, it's only in Cassell once. It's not going to be, it's only the bill is only in one place instead of it being entered as a payment twice. Right. Mm-hmm.
That only works if the invoice is paid through Invoice Cloud by the payer.
Sorry, what?
If the person pays by check, then that doesn't solve that problem.
It was an ACH that came in, it was entered twice, once under building permit, and then a week later under utilities.
So,
Same amount.
sorry to interrupt, it was actually entered in as a credit card, first as a building permit. And then a couple days later, when the report came in, I think it was entered in again as utilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then that same resident had an ACH come in and we entered that in as an ACH under their utility account.
Yeah.
So now they have two payments under their utilities, which there should have only been one. So with any credit cards, that'll go straight into Cassell, and we won't have to input that again in ACHs. But if it was a check, then yes, we would have to input that.
And we have found that to occur multiple times in the last 6 months.
Right, but you guys have to issue a statement or the invoice. At the time you issue it, you have to code it correctly.
Well, now, no, we have to now call the person and say your utility bill is incorrect.
I'm
because they
saying-
credited.
In the future, to avoid this problem from happening, on the front end, it would have to get set up correctly, and then they would have to process it through Invoice Cloud. Is that correct?
What do you mean by set up correctly?
When you create the payment due, you have to code it correctly. So if the human error is in not coding it correctly to utilities or building permits, I understand that once the payment is made through the system, it gets directly input. There's no error there. I get that. But on the front end, number one, they would have to pay electronically through Invoice Cloud. And number two, you would have to still set it up. And so whoever sets it up still has to know where it needs to be coded.
Correct. And so the reason why it happened that way before was because when we were initially setting it up, the person putting in the payment was looking at a report. At the front end, at the cash register in front, we can pick where it goes. We can pick out the code. But when it prints on that report, there's no information, just the person's name, how much they've paid. And if the customer did put in information, then it would show up. But if they didn't, most of the time they don't. It's just a name and an amount. So sometimes there's that human error where they guess, oh, this was for their utility when it wasn't. So
But if you do all that and then they pay by check,
Well, and
In
that
person.
becomes a coding issue as well, because you have to actually, on the drop down, choose how they pay. And if you say that they paid by credit card or whatever, then your books are off.
So with the mistakes that come in with the credit cards or ACHs, at least this would help rectify that issue. Yeah.
Because what happens, John, is that you get the credit cards or ACHs and they come through. And if you don't get them processed after they say, yeah, we're good, then if they are disapproved, then it kicks back and then you have that problem. So say you make a $65 payment in credit card and it does not process, it gets kicked back and you don't know about it until 3 days later.
That's with the current credit card system with IntelliPay.
everything that you.
So you were saying the last 2 council meetings ago that with the paperless billing, we would need upwards of 66% enrollment. The $250 monthly payment to Invoice Cloud worth it. But currently, since they dropped that paperless fee, we would need a 30% enrollment to break even. And I think 30% would be feasible.
Here's my thoughts are if it's gonna make it easier and reduce errors.
But I mean,
I mean,
I'd say
whether
3
it's
days. younger
paying
than
for it or not,
expectations.
I mean. It's maybe sensitive.
My concern is mainly not so much the paying for it, but our community members and demographic. I wonder how people in our community are going to be open to technology. That was one of the questions that I posed to the guys when we had our meeting this week. But I'd like for us to get some input from the community, and I'd like to know what our plan is for the implementation and rollout of this new process, and allow for our community folks to let us know what
It
they
won't
think.
change for the community. I got one envelope when I was Brenda for a day, 20 electronic checks from RMB.
That would get intercepted at the bank.
Yeah.
To where we wouldn't have to input that or see it. The bank would save money on postage.
So how do they get notified of what their bill is?
You get a postcard, just like they would.
Just like they would?
Unless they-
Everything would be the same.
Okay, so what I'd like to see is a summary of the process so that the community members are aware of what this change is gonna look like.
So there wouldn't be any changes.
No.
It would look exactly how it is now. No one would know any different, except for the fact that when I swipe a credit card, now instead of that payment going to IntelliPay, it'll go to Invoice Cloud. And then I don't have to make another input with the entry. No one would know anything else.
Okay.
So when more, well, so the thing I had stated during our last meeting was when our residents were signing up for paperless, or not paperless billing, with what's called automatic payment, auto pay. I was surprised at the number of residents that were older. I thought we would be getting a lot more younger people in, and they were all older. I want to say 10% of the people that I have signed up are younger. And so that was a big surprise to me. And so with that, I know that they have a really good marketing team. So we would work with them to try and get more flyers out there or something on Facebook just to reach a larger audience to maybe get them to sign up for paperless billing or even just auto pay.
Yeah, and I was yesterday, I think that we spent
All day.
all day trying to reconcile these issues. All day. For 1 month. And it would not affect residents. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can still pay by check. You can still, John, come and say hi. And pay your bill.
People calling in, we would still take their phone calls. The only people that maybe this would benefit are our introverts that don't want to talk to us. Where they could possibly just press a button and just pay over the phone with a machine.
But it would speed up the reconciliations by magnitude, I would say, so.
And there's a charge, there's a 95 cents or something like that incurred by the caller
Yeah.
if they process that.
But they still do right now, when they pay by credit card, so.
So when we rolled out IntelliPay, we had a little note at the bottom of the billing postcards and told people, we now have auto pay, please come in. And I think it's still on there if you'd like to sign up. And from that, we got people coming in, we had people calling us, and I have a whole stack of papers in my office of the residents that have signed up. And then the people that just send in their automatic payments to their banks, at least that part, they don't even have to worry about it. That'll just be intercepted. So that is smooth already. Our auto pay people that are already signed up, at least that'll be smooth there. And then if more people want to sign up, great. If they don't, then that's fine too.
How many people do you have on auto pay
Currently,
approximately?
I think I have about 70. And that's just auto pay. That's not the checks from the bank that get sent to us.
Correct, that just.
So is this part of Cassell or is it just an adder?
It will just
Add-on to Cassell.
It's a separate company that will speak to Cassell.
We're a partner of Cassell.
Okay. What is the down pay right now? If you took Cassell and all the appurtenances that we have for Cassell and all the monthly payments and all the, is there how often are we gonna have to upgrade the program and pay for the upgrades and all of that? The part I would like to know is long term, is this costing us? How long's the license for?
So our standard agreement is a 5-year term.
5-year term, and then what happens in 5 years? What do you guys, what if there's an upgrade or anything between now and 5 years? Is that another
Yeah.
fee?
Nope. So one of the best parts about Invoice Cloud's platform is that as we roll out new features and functionality, because of how the platform's designed, we're able to roll it right in with no additional cost to our customers. It's one of the things that you talk to our customers and they talk about kind of the long-term partnership with Invoice Cloud. They say is one of the most important parts of it.
And then the monthly fee, if I remember, was $250. Is that right? And
That's
so
correct.
the page on the back that shows that we can save at 30% participation with the town would save $2,340 a month. Is that $2,340 savings exclusive to the $250 a month cost, or is that you see what I'm saying? It's gonna cost us $250 a month. What is that? 3,000, 4,000 a year, something like that.
I think that's math's not my strong suit, but I think that's 3,000 a year. Is that right, Tommy?
And so is the savings that we're having, would that come out of that? In other words, then there would still be a net cost to the town, is that right?
At 30% adoption, I think there would still be a small net cost to the town. I think the number is like 38% adoption for paperless for net neutral just on print and mail savings, not counting saving staff time, on-time payments, print and mail for like late notices and that sort of thing as well that we save. Only on print and mail of bills, 38% is the break-even number, which is you look at our customer base and what we see on average, very doable for paperless.
Okay, and so that's the monthly fee. What's the initial cost again for the program?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
What's the initial cost? What's the cost of the program itself?
Oh, there's no setup, there's no implementation cost or anything like that.
You just install it, it's a monthly fee from there on.
Correct. And that's because of our partnership with Cassell. We already have the integration.
All right.
Well, and I will say that I was down here for 3 days. 3 days to integrate and reconcile credit cards for 7 months to get our ARPA funds ready to go. And there were 5 of us down here trying to do it.
Hey, Ron, by my math, you need 38.5% adoption to break even.
Okay. And we're at what, you said 70 right now, so what's that, is that
7%.
7% in the?
Then that's not counting though the other payments from the banks that will get intercepted, and I don't know how many that is right now.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Does
Absolutely.
anyone else have any questions for Thomas or Jeremy?
Thanks for your time.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
I guess one question I have for the council is if this is something that was brought to us during budget workshops, is this something we do missing that one right now? Staff said, hey, this is a new program that's gonna make our lives easier and better. Would we be taking 2 council meetings in 45 minutes a night to discuss it? I mean, seriously, if it was something during the budget workshop,
Well, we probably would have beat it up at the budget workshop. Be my guess. We wouldn't be talking about it now because the decision would have been made in June. But I think we would have beat it up and given it its due diligence back then.
I guess is there a motion to move forward with it? purchase invoice cloud or not? It's council's prerogative.
I would make a motion to invoice.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Moving on to Never Forget Park.
Thomas, Jeremy, thank you for popping on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hi, guys.
Council members and mayor, at the last council meeting, I reported that we had not received any of the information from WLC. Since that time, we have received the plan drawings for it, as well as the bid package and the bidding package for the curb and gutter work. And the advertisement for bid will go out this Thursday and repeat on following Thursday paper and close on the 18th with a site visit on, I believe it's the 14th calendar in front of me.
Is that, when you say the first public ad's gonna run?
Day after tomorrow.
Wrongs.
Not to the full council. I emailed them to Ron and I was hoping he'd send them on, but I certainly can do the full package if you want to see the full bid package or just the plan drawings.
Okay, you have to email that.
He said it'll publish Thursday the 6th. Run again on Thursday the 13th. Site visit on Friday the 14th. It's due Tuesday the 18th.
Correct.
Is that the WLC schedule? or-
No, that was my schedule.
Was the design what you were expecting, John?
It was. The primary focus of design was to obviously identify that eastern boundary as far as redesign of the general lay of the park, with the eastern boundary being the property boundary, and then the southern component with the capabilities of turning around without having to exit the park on the east side. That was the primary focus in redesign.
So I know on the initial design, they had kind of an island down there. You can still have that, or is this gonna be open area for sure?
Say that again.
On the initial design, there was kind of an island.
The island will still be there to some extent because that's where the power pole is, guy wires. And so the original design had the bathroom at that location and obviously surrounded, and the power pole remaining with the guy wire associated with the power pole. They've since moved the bathroom just over to the north. On the northern, would be the southern edge of the big part of the park, with just a small island that basically incorporates the power pole and the guy wire, with the capabilities of larger vehicles coming in and circling that and going out with two-way traffic.
John, you could present that if you want. There's 5 copies.
Is there a place we can review this?
I'll get a copy if I'd be more than happy to. I can even give it to
Stacy?
give it to Brenda and put it on the town website.
So we have a website, neverforgetpark.com, and that went live last week, and it has this plan on there, and it has we have an email address just for questions, and we also have the ability eventually we'll have the ability to take online payments. We still haven't figured that out with Georgia yet, but that website is neverforgetpark.com.
Thanks, Stacy.
John, did you find out if, the town owns the survey control or if they provide?
They have survey control at the site, but they would have to do the actual work. They would have to do the contract to set the project up as far as survey control on the curb and gutter. I've asked them for a quote on that.
But we got the control they use to design the park.
It has control. I guess the question is, it is in our possession on our server. I don't think so, but I didn't ask them to give it to us, which I certainly could.
Okay, well, I just wondered if it was included in the price, because I would think they would have given us a drawing to show what it was, so that when we went to lay it out again.
Is there an engineer's estimate for the curb and gutter?
There isn't. That was requested of them. Probably should have been.
Any other questions for John on Never Forget Park?
It's really good spacing. Thank you. It's there.
I just pulled up the website too, it looks great. Thank you. Moving on to Valley Village Daycare. Not heard anything back from Valley. I believe it was left that she was gonna give us quotes on those 4 or 5 items that they outlined. I know Jane started reviewing the red line lease and kind of the issues that her and she probably her and the other attorney were able to work out. But I don't see Ellie in here unless anyone else has an update there.
Is that a question from the public? Question concerning what area of the park is proposed to be fenced off? That was a fair question. I don't think we asked that, or I can certainly know, so. Just, if they could clarify, or we could ask for a sketch or just something really simple that delineates what the proposed fence area would be. I think that would be helpful to address that question from some folks I heard from. That's the only thing I have on that.
I will email Ellie.
Thanks.
I assume it's probably this portion of playground equipment.
Actually, I talked to Ellie about that a little bit, and because I had a concern about us fencing off the portion that has the playground equipment and limiting who could be there. Because that's for all the public, if we were using it for the daycare or the preschool, then you wouldn't be able to have other kids come in there during those hours. And she indicated that we would be looking at a separate area. Now, we'll talk more about it, but I did ask that question as well.
Okay. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I'll shoot her an email and try to get some more clarification.
The next time we talk, then it'd be good.
It's also about question during daytime. If they're not part of the Valley Village daycare, then can you not go?
Well, I think there would be limitations because you're having to control it. So I think that would be an issue, and it's definitely something we need to work out.
Okay. Moving on to the Wyoming Community Gas. I believe this was tabled at the last meeting. Regarding, I think we have to give Wyoming Community Gas notice of what project we're going to use the funds for. And so I believe it was tabled at the last meeting. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on it.
I didn't get any feedback from the public personally. That was kind of why I wanted to table it, but I didn't, not a single comment my way.
I think last year we split it between the ballpark and the park.
I think historically, and Stacy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or John, I think previous years it always went to the park. 2 years ago, went to baseball fields, last year was split between the two.
How's the baseball fields doing?
They're coming. We've got fencing, we're hoping to get it installed here in the next couple of weeks, depending on the weather. But we're making progress. We've got big
I
stuff to do.
was supposed to split, yeah, between the park and the ball fields.
Anyone else have any thoughts, or do you want to do that motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to split the funds between the Woods Fields and the Nick Park.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Workers' comp report. Something that's been on every deal. Are we making any progress on that, or where are we at with that?
Some, not a whole lot. We probably won't really get into some of the weeds on this until we get through the summer season and we get into our slower time of the year. And we've got some cost estimates on certain items, and one of them is on your list there. And we'll continue to do the replacement of certain items that we can, and then obviously look at some of the bigger items to figure out how we're gonna do some of those. Because we budgeted more in the budget, but not probably enough to cover some of these larger items.
Okay. All right, anything else for that? Okay, moving on to food trucks.
Right, since our last meeting, I took a stab at a draft of an ordinance, based on our conversation last time, which I thought was pretty good. We had some good input. There are copies of it up there for anybody here tonight that want to review what I put together, and then suppose we can post it to the website too. I mean, I can email you the electronic copy if you want. I'll kind of run through it and stop for any questions if you guys have any. This is based largely on Laramie's ordinance, I would say. I did change a few things based on some of the comments and concerns. Essentially, it outlines that to be a mobile vendor, which is, let me read the definitions. Mobile food vendor means an outdoor vendor operating from a mobile vehicle, trailer, or push cart license for use in the retail sale or service of ready-to-eat or packaged food, including a vendor operating from a mobile food truck, trailer, or push cart on which food is cooked or prepared. Mobile vending unit means any portion of a mobile vending operation in which service or activity associated with the operation is provided. So that's kind of the catch-all. It states that a license is required to operate a mobile vending unit in the town, unless it's exempt under section 540.030. I'll get back to the exemptions here in a minute. Let me just run through kind of the broader outline. It goes through the application process, which would be an application to the clerk's office. It is an annual fee, renewed annually. I left the fee blank. Laramie's is $50 a year. But like I said in previous meetings, I don't care if it's $0. I think it's not about raising revenue. It's about controlling or having some control and authority over the environment. But they would be good for a year, whatever fee we choose, or no fee. There are provisions in here for suspension and revocation. boiling that down. If you violate the rules of this section, you can get your license suspended or revoked. And if you're part of an ongoing suspension or revocation, you can't be issued a second license. There's obviously a lot more words in that paragraph than that, but that's essentially what it says. There is a requirement for insurance. There are general rules and regulations. They have to be approved by the Wyoming Department of Agriculture to receive a license. So basically you need a food truck license to be licensed in Saratoga. At least one person shall be on site at all times while in operation. Any audio amplification used in the mobile vending operation shall not be audible from neighboring properties. All mobile vending units shall maintain a minimum of 15-foot separation from fire hydrants, 10-foot separation from structures. No mobile vendor shall discharge any liquid waste, trash, or debris into sanitary sewers, storm drains, rights of way, or public property. The discharge of grease onto the ground or into sanitary sewers or storm drains shall be strictly prohibited. Then it further breaks that down into provisions for vending on private property versus vending on public property. On private property, you cannot operate outside of retail business and highway business zones, subject to the exemptions, which I'll get into. When located within 150 feet of a residential zone district, hours of operation shall be 8 to 8. If outside of 150 feet from a residential zone district, the hours are 7 to 10. Not allowed within 200 feet of a boundary of a school. Signage shall comply to the Saratoga sign code and not be located in the town right of way. And then mobile vending on public property would be only allowed on a temporary basis where the town of Saratoga designates public parking spaces for the specific purpose of mobile vending on a temporary basis. Use of such areas shall be on a first come basis. No vending shall be permitted within public property other than within a posted area. Exemptions. A mobile vending license shall not be required for operation during a permit approved special event. Mobile vending license shall not be required for any farmer or producer who sells or disposes of his or her own agricultural products, including fruits or vegetables, or of beef, mutton, or pork, provided such meats are produced in accordance with all the health regulations and laws. If such merchandise is produced by him or her in the state of Wyoming, or for the delivery of any products as authorized under the Wyoming Food Freedom Act. Mobile vending license shall not be required for any civic or nonprofit organization, including members of school classes, sanctioned school groups, FFA, 4-H, FHA, S Club, TAA, Theta Rho, Job's Daughters, Lions Club, Rotary Club, American Legion, and other civic and nonprofit organizations. A mobile vending license shall not be required for individuals under the age of 18 selling lemonade, iced tea, or other flavored drinks. Sections 540, 100 shall be waived for mobile vending units operating in CCSD number 2 grounds with written approval from CCSD2 administration. And subsection 54090A and C shall be waived while mobile vending operation is under a private contract for a private event not serving the public. There's also an exemption in here, section 540 and 110 may be waived if vending a right of way adjacent to a town park with approval from the Parks and Recreation Department of the town. So what all that comes down to is we've covered the Wyoming Food Freedom Act exemption. So farmers markets selling your salsas and jams are exempt from this entirely. Lemonade stands are exempt from it entirely. Anything on CCSD two grounds with permission from the school is their own thing. Basically, it doesn't regulate what they can or can't do on school grounds, at school events with school administration permission. It says that if you're setting up on private property, you have to be in retail business or highway business with possession of the owner of the property. Except for if you're, and you can be in a residential zone district, if you're on private property. It's a private event, not serving the public. In which case you would most likely have a special event permit if you are serving the public. So if I want to have a get together in my house and have somebody cater it, I can do that as long as they're set up in my driveway, not out on the street. If I'm going to allow them to serve the public, I need a special event permit. And that would go for all residential districts. The public property, again, if you have a special event permit, you're exempt. So setting up on Bridge Street during Togi days, not a problem there, you don't need a permit. But to set up, say at the boat ramp or over at Hobo Pools, that would have to be in a space designated by the town specifically for mobile vending.
So I would make a motion for Councilman Nelson to rework all the ordinances and variances in town of Saratoga.
Yep. That's gonna die for lack of second.
Is there a clause in there that protects the lake, John? Out there, would that be private property, town property?
So in town, in the operation on public property section. Let me read that a little more specifically because I think yes, it does. Mobile vending may be permitted within public property at specific locations during times when the town of Saratoga Streets Department designates public parking spaces for the specific purpose of mobile vending on a temporary basis. The use of such areas shall be on a first come basis. No vending shall be permitted on public property other than within a designated area. Areas within the following locations may be designated for mobile vending use on a temporary basis. Within Never Forget parking lot, within the Hobo Pools parking lot. Those are the two areas that the ordinance essentially says that the town could designate public parking spaces for mobile vending, right? I did not include the lake in there. We could certainly amend it to include the lake.
That was just something that was brought up in the discussion, when everybody was talking about the food trucks.
Yeah.
Now, when they have the fishing derby, that's a special event.
Exactly. So if you're doing the fishing derby out there and some of the town get a special event permit, then you can have mobile vendors out there.
Whatever.
But over the course of the year, there wouldn't be, as currently written, there wouldn't be a way to set up a food truck out there without a special event permit. We could choose to, on a busy weekend or in the middle of the summer, if we thought there was demand for it, we could choose to, without a special event permit, go cordon off 2 parking spaces at the Hobo Pools parking lot and say, somebody wants to set up here for the day, have at it, without a special event permit. That's how this is written.
Yes.
Either way, to protect the lake itself, because the area on public property, because the area would be specifically designated by the town.
Right.
We could set it up so it's not, right up against the water or wherever we felt was appropriate. The problem with doing it out there is, I think,
well, yeah,
without a special event permit where you've got provisions for the restrooms and all that other stuff.
correct.
It's kind of not a great place to do it. You really don't have the facilities normally out there, in my opinion. So.
I just brought it up to see if there was a need.
I wouldn't. I don't know that I would enter. Well, Not really up to me to entertain a motion. It wasn't my intent to have anybody move on accepting this on the first reading tonight. I wanted to discuss it. I think, I'll publish it to the website and everybody take have a chew on it and see what other comments we get before we go to the first reading.
Well, this is awesome, thank you.
Like I said, largely based on Laramie, but I took out a bunch of stuff that I thought was kind of over-regulating it. And left in some of the good stuff, but then the split between public property and private property is very different in this than it is for Laramie.
I would like to read it, and thank you very much. This is awesome.
Is there a set amount on the insurance fee?
Million. No. I mean, again, like, we want to change that to 500 per incident, $1 million aggregate, I mean, whatever, but any of the food trucks that are licensed with the state are required to have that. That came from, Laramie adopted that from the states.
From
So it's in there, but it's probably redundant, because if we're saying in one paragraph that you have to be a licensed food truck with Wyoming Department of Ag, then it's kind of redundant to then say, oh, and you also have to have insurance. Because I don't think the insurance requirements are any different. So, I mean, leave it in, take it out, I don't really think it matters, but what's in there, I think it's normal and reasonable. So,
Yes.
I have a citizen question. I have found, just a bit of background real quick, I've found on every winter that I'm always puzzled when I go up on Snowy Range to the gate and all those vehicles are parked up there and all those people are loading and unloading, that nobody's ever put a vending truck up there. I've always kind of wondered about that. It seems like a great place for hot coffee and that sort of thing.
I think the county commissioners meeting was earlier today.
Okay. I wasn't listening at that point, but my point was, is there a similar kind of opportunity that presents itself of somebody doing that, deciding to do that on a regular basis at the lake, and should therefore, in response to that, should there be a provision to allow for that?
Well,
Is there enough
like I said,
business out there?
I think the lake is a challenging location because there aren't good facilities out there for sanitation. And so when there's a special event, like the fishing derby, when they go through the process of getting all that temporary infrastructure, call it, out there, then it becomes more conducive to having temporary food service. I don't think that on a regular basis, that should be a permitted place to always just have food trucks be allowed all the time, personally. I haven't heard anybody say, man, I really wish I could set up a food truck at the lake on any given Saturday. That said, they wouldn't be precluded from doing that, they would just have to get a special event permit. There are other places in town, all private property within retail business and highway business. And those parks that I mentioned would be available for mobile vending. And again, this is only for people that aren't covered by the exemptions. So again, like farmers markets don't need a permit. Selling salsa, don't need a permit. Covered by the Wyoming Food Feeder.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, thanks, Sean. Move on to purchase approval for utility pushers.
So before we move on, can we put this on the agenda for the next meeting? And this is the right ordinance number? I have 865.
I'm not sure.
You need me to correct that, just so we know.
Do you want some fee?
Sure. I mean, what do you guys think?
So right now it's like $25 for alcohol. But you're talking yearly fee?
Annual fee.
Have you researched that at all, about a yearly fee for?
$50 a month.
$50 for a year.
I think it was $25 for 72-hour permit. It was 25 for a 72-hour permit or 50 for a year. And I didn't see the need to do a 72-hour permit. I think
So
it's just more administration.
$50 powerful, right?
I
I would say.
I would think so. But again, that was some of the feedback we got in the earlier meetings was that this is just town trying to be creative on ways to raise revenue. And it's like, well, we have 5 of these a year and that's $250, $50 a pop. It's not cable revenue.
Well, then I would say, I would make a motion to add to your ordinance $50 a year for the fee for vendors.
Okay, I will plug that in for the next meeting. Anything else you guys see in the meantime, let me know, and Maria, I will get you an electronic copy of the website.
Moving on to purchase approval for utilities postcards.
We need more utility postcards.
Is there a motion?
Need a motion. Right? What'd you say? Okay, okay.
Which one is on?
5,000.
Made the original motion.
Kathy, second.
Motion.
So $1,060 for that 5,000. Is what we're voting on, right?
So I think Dearmon's saying that she made a motion to add $50 to the permit fee. That's why I'm clarifying.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. If
I understand, no.
I don't know if there's a motion
There we are.
for that.
Yeah, fine.
So
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
good.
think we need a
We're
motion.
good.
Solely on its postcards. Okay, is there a motion to purchase 5,000 postcards?
Motion.
Second,
All in favor?
I, maybe we'll sell enough these where we can pay for it.
Yeah, moving on to Odd Fellows Park.
Oh, yes, that's part. Back to me. I also drafted up an MOU between the town of Saratoga and Danny McCall. I did not get a chance to sit down with Danny or McCall to go through what the specific responsibilities would be for the caretakers, as I'm calling them in this MOU. And so as before, I don't think this is ready for any kind of approval or anything tonight. But I did want to at least bring you what I had as a draft and talk about what it says and brainstorm just for a minute on what it needs to have included or not included.
So John, I read through it, that first sentence up there, is that left over from a cut and paste or something?
Probably.
Regarding the shared use of emergency equipment.
Yep, that should come out. Thank you. We are not purchasing a sandbagger with firewall.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so let me run through a couple of these things that I don't, other than that I don't think are gonna change, and then we can talk about what should change between now and final version. Whereas a public open space known as Odd Fellows Park exists within the North River Street right of way, north of Main Avenue, within Lens Town. Whereas this public space was first established by members of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, but is no longer maintained by their members. And whereas volunteers of the nonprofit thrift store Bridge Street Bargains provide improvements to this public space, but are no longer able to maintain said improvements. And whereas the town does not wish to designate this public space as a town park, and has not contemplated the financial resources to maintain the public space. And whereas the public space is frequently used by the public and provides benefit to the public, and whereas the caretakers, Danny McCall, are the owners of a private property immediately west of the public space where they operate a restaurant business with outdoor seating. And whereas caretakers have expressed the interest in providing the necessary normal and routine maintenance of the public space such that the area can continue to be enjoyed by the public. And whereas the parties wish to establish this memorandum of understanding in order to further define the roles and responsibilities of each party concerning the ongoing maintenance of the public space known as Odd Fellows Park. Now therefore, the parties agree as follows. Term would be effective when it's signed and remain in full force in perpetuity or until otherwise terminated. Termination says the MOU may be terminated at any time by either party upon 30 days written notice. So even though it says it's perpetual, there's a real easy way to terminate it. It can be amended with the written consent of the town and by the caretakers. Skipping the part I really want to talk about and just going to number 8 real quick. I think this is important to address some concerns. Number 8, no restriction of public use. This public space shall remain, this public space shall remain open to the public for use at all times in perpetuity. Nothing contained in this MOU shall be construed as to provide the caretakers with an exclusive right to the public space or to restrict public access to the space. I think that's pretty important to have in there. And then the holes that we have to fill are paragraphs 6 and 7, responsibilities of the caretakers and responsibilities of the town. Just as an outline, I have landscape maintenance. This is under caretakers. Landscape maintenance, the caretaker shall provide for the mowing of grass and weeds on a regular basis, such that the public space is properly accessible and usable by the public. Watering shall not be required. Picnic tables I have as a header, but nothing stated. Pollinator boxes I have as a header, with nothing stated. And then responsibility to the town. There is a trash can out there that I believe is the town's, and we empty it, I assume.
Good question.
Yes.
On that south end.
I know there's one out there. I'm assuming whose it is. I don't know who else that's supposed to be. Well, for responsibilities of the town, as I have this, it says solid waste, the town shall maintain responsibility for providing and emptying one trash receptacle at this location. And then as a header, snow storage with nothing under it. I think the intent there was to have something about, the town can continue to use that space for snow storage as long as they don't.
Take out the pollinator
Yeah,
box.
exactly. So I guess just real quick, without having any feedback from Danny McCall, I think this is certainly not complete, right? But do you guys see anything that needs to be addressed specifically either by the town or by them that we wanna make sure to hit in this?
No, I really like the way put this together. I would leave it between the town of Saratoga and individuals and not enter any business names into that.
Yeah, I have it, right.
I didn't see them in there, which I think is good. Should that business ever turn over or something like that?
Well, if you Google it right now, it says closed permanently.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that they intend to continue operating a business there. So either way, I mean, what they expressed to me was, since the last meeting was, regardless of what their side of the street is or gets used for, they'd still like to ensure that that space is maintained, because if nothing else, it just helps their side with looking nice, so. I thought that was great, so, anything else you guys wanna need to be sure to cover with them when I meet with them? Any concerns from Public Works on what You guys
I don't know
want-
that you spelled the last name correctly, so I was trying to. So.
If you could just send me a draft on that.
Thanks, John. Anything else for town hall?
I'll have this ready to go for the next meeting.
Moving on to police department.
We finally went live with the Stillman project yesterday. Still getting a few of the bugs out of it. All the docking stations, printers, scanners, laptops are all been mounted in the vehicles. Not sure exactly when we're going to go live with the DigiTicket. We've been doing training on that. As far as training, we had 2 dispatchers just got back from their EMD training, which they both passed. Alex Munson just got back from a week up at Douglas for FTO training. Danny Bourne is supposed to be leaving, I think, next week to go down for training for attack for the NCIC computer. Jen Anderson starts her basic training for dispatch at the end of the month. Kay Schrock will be going in April for her basic training. And there's other training coming up with Glenn Kasner. There's like a week, towards the end of October. I can't remember for sure what we have scheduled for that one. We got people, trying to get the training what we can. The part-timers been stepping in and covering those shifts for us, so everybody's had some time off. We ain't like totally stressed out on that. That's about what's been on. A lot of training, a lot of work.
With Martin's resignation, we need to start advertising.
Yeah. I already put an ad on. It's just, it doesn't cost us nothing. I just threw it back on a couple of like police one and stuff like that. So, trying to think what else we had. That's been about it. It's just been busy.
I have a question for Chief. I've always been curious, Chief, you do a good job with putting up these graphs and everything, but I noticed that the ratio between citations and warnings varies greatly. Like 1 month we'll have just a few citations and a whole lot of warnings, and then the next month it kind of evens out a little bit. What causes that? Is that
Just officer discretion, what they, it's, and I can go back and show you statistics that if the weather's bad and it's raining, you're gonna see a lot more rain, warnings or something like that. Or if the officer's been on like a long shift, it's to the point he'll just give a warning. It's just their discretion and, it's.
okay, a good answer. My next question, though, the last question I have is, do we keep track of the warning tickets? I mean,
Oh,
the officers know that when they pull somebody over that he might have already had 5 warnings for the same thing, or how do we know?
Yeah, we keep track of that, and usually the officers will ask, if they've had speeding violations, if they've had any priors, they pull it up in-house or on, NCIC, and then they'll usually inquire about when was the last time they had one, was it in the year or so, and if they've had like 2 prior warnings, then usually that, dictates to them that it's going to be a citation this time.
All right, thanks, Chief.
When we did get the vest, it takes 4 to 6 weeks. So those vests should be here. Probably the first part of November.
Okay. All right, thanks, Chief. Moving on to the fire department. Not much to do to report there. Moving on to the rec department.
Kiwanis came to the rec commission meeting last night in request to place their ice skating rink, which is a 30 feet by 60 feet ice skating rink on Veterans Island in the current skate park from early to mid-December to mid-March. I'd just like to know what the council's thoughts are on that and see if we can make a motion to grant Kiwanis permission to do so. Sorry, at Veterans Island at the skate park.
So they would like to use the concrete slab on the tennis court area.
because it's more stable than behind lollipops. So right now they have a 20 by 30 ice skating rink, and they would like to maximize a 30 by 60. It's more level and stable. And the question is if they can ask the council and the town to utilize that space. The only question that they have is if they can get water from water dogs or the fire department or somebody to fill it. The thing is, they will have benches, decorations, plus signs, and their liability will cover all insurance and problems that occur there. So I think it'd be great for the town. And the Recreation Commission says it would be great as well. And they recommend that opportunity to provide the ice rink at Veterans Island for the winter. It's mobile, so it's not permanent. And I think it would be, I personally, and the commission also, think it'd be a great opportunity for the town to offer some ice skating in the winter for kids and adults, whoever wants to try it out. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember I think it's when the Kiwanis and John, you might remember this. When they initially came to the town, they talked about that location. I'm just trying to remember some of the issues they were talking about.
Yeah.
When it was open, obviously it's potential for liability, and I don't think maybe at that point Kiwanis had some of those answers.
When they originally discussed it, within the group, they actually were at kind of the feeling they didn't necessarily like the site, but I personally believe it'd be an excellent site. It's obviously flat. It's fenced. That if we wanted to restrict the, pardon me?
You've lost 2 linings maybe over the.
Yeah, every year that we've had the rink, we've bought a new line. And some of that's a lot to do with kids. The lining's not very thick. It's pretty thin. So we just have been layering it up every year. They stick the toe points on the skates into the side and it just rips a hole in it instantly. But we've since purchased some banner or some borders around the inside to try to avoid that. But it's flat. It'll be easier to fill and freeze quicker. It is fenced if we wanted to restrict access to it, and it actually has lights on it. Mm-hmm. The downside was they didn't know if they wanted to have an ice skating rink that's an attraction to kids that close to the river. I think that was the only
Well, and I think
concern about
this is the lake is dead. I mean, this is a great opportunity to provide some.
Oh, I agree.
Something for kids, right?
I've always liked that site.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
For the remainder of my report, the gym hours of operations have not changed. With the recommendation of the community center, we are currently still closed on Fridays and renting that space out to the county 6 dance. We have added cycling into our fitness class schedule. Volleyball ends this week and we will start middle school girls basketball on Monday. Evening open gyms are the same. We are working still with Laramie to provide a pickleball clinic in November. At the pool, we finished up some of the cleaning and now we just have a couple items to move inside that is too heavy for me to move on my own. There will need to be some touch-up painting that needs to be done inside over the winter months. Youth activities, flag football ends this next week. We have pictures on Monday and our last game will be held on Wednesday. The fall festival family carnival that was held on Saturday, October 1st. We had roughly 150 to 175 participants and volunteers there from 11 in the morning till about 1:30 when the rain finally shut us down. The Carbon County Visitors Council grant that came through for up to $2,300 in reimbursements for shirts, prizes, and miscellaneous items. So I will work the final checklist for that and have you sign that on future council meetings. And there has been some discussion on my office hours, so I'd just like to address that. My office hours at the gym open to the public are from Monday through Wednesday from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Thursdays from 11 in the afternoon, or 11 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Fridays by appointment due to County Six dance being in there and the front doors being locked. I am working still. This is a field job. And so I find myself at the football field. I find myself at the swimming pool. I find myself at the soccer field, at the school. I'm in several locations throughout the morning. That being said, with the permission of the council, I would like to continue to have my schedule follow the school district calendar schedule, with the exception of holidays and when I host events. So my hours through the day to be 8 to 3, and then when I'm with the evening events, I will, be there for later hours. I'll be available on the weekends when we have events. I believe that that's what we all decided back in November when I took the job full time and left the pharmacy. So just want to clear that up a little bit.
Listed on your door and site.
Mhm.
And the voicemail, is it forward?
And forwards to my cell phone now. Originally it was forwarding to the rec department cell phone. And that got left down at the swimming pool for emergency use for the lifeguards because the landline did not call the police department directly. We left that on deck. And then when I moved it back over to the office, it wasn't very convenient to, everybody in town already has my cell phone. It's posted on my door. So everybody calls my cell phone anyway. So I just have that one for field use mostly.
Does anyone have any questions for Sarah?
Do we need a motion to up her hours?
I guess that's.
Is it a problem?
No?
Is this a problem? Is there a problem?
I just find the problem that is I work 7 days a week all summer long,
Yeah.
and I just want to clarify so I can have some time off
I understand.
without feeling guilty for taking it.
I don't question your hours.
So anything dealing with personnel has to be spoken in executive session, just reminding you guys.
Well, I guess my thoughts would be, I know there was a couple concerns raised that, and I talked to Sarah about it, is, it's a full-time position, have an expectation of 8 to 5, understanding that there's football, so she's gonna be down at the football field still 6:30. When basketball gets going, go till 7 or 8, that type of thing. Sound like that there had been some concerns about, the gym being open at 8 in the morning for senior walking or whatever they do there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Some questions like that. I did go down and talk to Sarah, just clarifying it was one individual and she knows who it is and didn't call her cell phone, but she was coming around the corner when they were leaving. So I think that's where part of the concern came from is, that, this council decided to make it a full-time position, as opposed to the part-time position it was, there was a concern of the office hours are this, but, are we, if she's not there, where is she, working? I think was the concern that was raised to me. So I guess I haven't had a lot of complaints or anything, but like I said, it's something that I think needs to be further addressed in some executive session. So anything else? Sorry.
The next Recreation Commission Board meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 7th at 6 p.m. at Town Hall.
Moving on to Department of Public Works.
Mr. Mayor and council members, the report is there before you. I have a request for permission to purchase 3 items at the top of the list. The first one is I want to purchase 10 8-foot 1.5-inch lift chains, grade 100, with a 15,000 pound vertical load capacity for approximately $385 each. And this was one of the inspection hazard items, number 13 on there. I have approximately, because they range in values, and when I did my research on finding those load chains, almost every one of them said they were out of supply. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to purchase them when I get them, but 385 was about the average. They had some that were 400 plus and some that were in the low 300s. So that's why I put that together.
And it's fair to say that there is no budget for that.
We have budget in all the departments for safety, and the budget for the streets, if I remember right, was either $35,000 or $4,000. But when we put the budget together, we didn't necessarily call this out as an individual item that we needed to budget for. So it's kind of one of those things. It's in the budget until we exceed our budget.
So this is not budgeted at all?
No, this is a result of the inspection. And so there'll be.
Workers' comp. Sorry, it's not OSHA, it's workers' comp.
Well, workers' comp, but there'll be several.
OSHA guidance.
So
Is this something that the grant process or whatever the workers' comp has? Is this some stuff, I mean, the program I think have up to 9 grade. Is this what it's intended for, like to where they reimburse for it, or is it something you have to submit to them and then?
So we can talk to them more about the detail, but they do have a program where we can get $9,000, but we would spend $1,000 of our money. So they could assist us as long as the items purchased are approved by them first.
If we use that grant, it's 10% match, then our cost to purchase $4,000 worth of change would be $400, right? So what do you say we apply for the grant?
So that would be my thoughts, and I don't know, is that, or it looks like that's the only thing you have on right now for, that's on the rest of the workers' comp stuff.
Correct.
So, okay, I guess to me that makes sense, is might pay $4 grand, especially if it wasn't something we specifically budgeted for, if we pursue that grant together.
I make the motion to apply for the workman's comp grant for the lifting chains.
I'll second.
All in favor?
And I'll make the motion to approve $4,000 of lifting chains once we hear back on the grant application, regardless of the result of the grant application.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second item was our hot water tank at the street shop died on us, so got the estimate on that to be $600 to replace the hot water tank.
The street department purchases a new hot water tank.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The third thing was hot mix batch plant in Rollins is going to be up on Thursday. And with our recent water line repair over on Walnut, we're requesting an additional 2 loads, about 14 tons of hot mix for some of the street repair items, as well as the water line repair, which we will re-invoice out.
And John, is this repair is coincides with that installed engine half water tap?
It is associated with the new water tap. So that's what I'm saying. We'd be able to invoice for reimbursement of that.
So not budgeted. You don't have a line item for that?
We have a line item for street repair and water lines. We have a line item for that. It's just a matter of how many times we've had to do water line repairs. And we estimate based on previous years. This one, like I said, we'll be able to reimburse it because it is a new line item, or it is a new service. And in our ordinance, we're allowed to reimburse or request payment for any activities that disturb the street. And so they will be invoiced for the hot mix that we use on that patch, as well as the labor to put the patch down.
Is that a shared thing, or do they take and pick up the whole tab on that?
I'd have to look at the ordinance on that because there is some specific language associated with cost sharing on that.
So is it fair to, is this the total price in $1,050
For the material.
for the material? And so the motion we're making is or would be to allow you to buy that with the understanding that we get reimbursed for that.
For a percentage of it, yes. Correct, for a percentage of it, yes.
So it's not reimbursed right now. You don't have that money right now.
No, because we don't know exactly how many tons we're going to use to redo it. We don't know necessarily what the labor hours are in putting the patch in and finishing it. But once we do that, then we'll generate an invoice that identifies that.
Make the motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Okay, we're now to report on the highlights. At least 71 construction did complete the street patch, which council approved at last meeting at 105 West Rochester. The water line repair. Streets crews have been helping the water crew with my water main repair work. We have been able to haul some topsoil that was donated to the town up to the football field from north of town, which we will be able to utilize pretty much anywhere we want. It's appears to be pretty good material. We can use it on Never Forget Park when we do that. If we have other areas, so it's kind of an opportunity that we took advantage of. We helped Sarah with shutting down the swimming pool, and then we did receive our second order of ice slicer delivered on September 21st for 31 tons, and our ice shed is now full. As far as water and sewer, they finished up and installed the 1.5-inch water tap at First and Walnut today. We'll spend tomorrow on backfilling it, and but they put in the tap and the bulb. As we discussed, we finished the repair work on the 6-inch line, 3rd Street between Main and Saratoga, which I think I reported to the last meeting. Finished that work and did the patchwork on it. Spring Avenue Water project, just in summary. They've installed the 12-inch water line down to probably within a couple hundred feet of First Street. They're going back now and doing some of the water taps that they'll put in. They'll do the one by the church first, and probably the ones at PVCC next. They'll probably hold off until they get the bore done and the water line complete over to the east side of the highway. Primarily before they do those, they've been doing some survey work to try to establish their controls and survey their so they can put their forms in, put their forms in for the valley pans at 3rd Street, as well as the drainage that's gonna go flat work between First Street and Third Street. They obviously came in, they bored 3 holes down to a depth of between 17 and 20 feet so they could dewater the bore pit, which is just outside there. And it is now dry and complete and waiting for Coleman, the bore contractor, to come back into town. Hopefully, told us today, hopefully they'll be in at the end of the week to start the bore. And they have tested the water line between Second and Third Street. Pressure and for back teeth test, and it passed. Nothing to report on weeding past the lake. According to Game and Fish, rotenone treatment was successful. And now they're monitoring rotenone levels in the lake, as well as starting to do some sampling on some canary traps to see if the rotenone is dissipated enough that the lake will be safe. It'll still be closed, not only for that reason, but for the cyanobacterium until it gets cold. But the PAA has been opened back up so people can go into pretty much anywhere around the lake. They just are precluded from going in the lake.
John, have we seen an invoice on Spring Street yet?
Yes, I got one just the other day, the first draft, and I haven't looked at it yet, John. I got it, I think on Friday. I was out of town, but I haven't looked at it yet. But yes, we have received one, the first draw.
If I remember right, their billing schedule is 20th or 21st, right around there. So they'd ask when we do APs and all that, so. Yeah, we haven't had them come before the council here, but they should have one to jump out.
Let's be sure to take that to Joint Powers Board
Okay.
next week. I'd like to review that and just make sure Joint Powers Board sees it as well before it hits our AP package.
Certainly. And then discuss, never forget park, and then we have blown out all the irrigation lines in the parks. With the exception, I think, of the north baseball field. Randy, as far as a blowout spigot for that. There wasn't one in the vault because the meter didn't have one, and plus it's got the service to the house on it. So we need to make sure that it's blown out some way or another.
Okay. Will you guys find it?
Pardon me?
Will you get with them this weekend?
That's all I had.
Do you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to reports from boards and commissions, community center by power board.
I don't have any updates from them.
Okay. Their next meeting is October 10th at 4:30 at the community center. Water and sewer joint power board.
New updates. Next meeting is October 12th. Like this. Meeting, sorry.
Planning commission, no updates. Our next meeting is October 11th at 5:30 here at Town Hall Chambers. Sarah Finger, Airport Advisory Board.
I have a mountain. First of all, there's a monument that was going to be replaced at the Apron project or entrance road project. So it's a cannon and the base is not replaceable. So it's beyond scope of what they bid for. When they reached out to masonry, it's $75,000 to create the base to set the cannon in front of the entrance road. So I asked Georgia, and today received months worth of revenue from the airport board. It will not come from the general fund, it comes to the airport, $75,000. So the request is to spend $5,000 on the base of the monument. Again, it would not come from the general fund, from the town, it would come from the airport fund.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yes.
May I ask a question about that cannon?
Mhm.
Is there a reason, since it's been removed, so you could do that project up there? Is there a reason that the cannon isn't put in a more historic location, like across the street at the museum? So that people, because I've read the plate on the front of it, and it said that it was a cannon that the cavalry used to drag around behind them 100 years ago or 150.
Yeah, I don't know that answer. I asked earlier and I did not get a response, so I don't know the answer. They just wanted to keep it on the property and as.
Who owns the cannon?
Who owns the airport?
No, the cannon.
Town.
Okay. It just seems curious that you'd spend $5,000 putting it back there, even if it's anybody's money. That you'd spend $5,000 putting it back there when you could simply take it across the street and put it over there.
It's a request.
Okay.
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. The plaque on one side talks about whatever the cannon's from, and I don't remember the details on that, but it's Civil War era, I think. Don't quote me. The other side of the monument has a plaque dedicated to Jack Shifley. And years back, when there was a discussion about rehabilitating the monument itself and or relocating it. And I don't remember if I was on the airport board or the count, well, would have had to have been when I was on the council, the council rep to the airport board. So 2 or 3 years ago, I was asked to talk to the relatives of Jack Shively, and it was they expressed to me that they did not want it moved, that it belonged at the airport and that's where it should remain. And so at the time, I took that back to the airport board and it was agreed by the board at the time that it wouldn't move. But relocating it to the museum, for example, or to park right over here next to Lollipops as another example was explored at that time. As far as why it's an additional cost, I guess that's the question I have. I mean, if that wasn't included in the scope of work for the project, why is it being added now?
And monuments, the base of the unit was pretty fragile. And so when they even had to move it, it fell apart.
Well, I thought the project was designed around it and it wasn't to be.
They did not include the fact that the base was not going to be usable. They're gonna have to rebuild the whole thing for the monument.
What was the scope? Did the scope of the project include moving it and putting it back?
Yeah, but not the fact that it was not usable. Was not part of the scope. So this is an extra cost that was not included in the scope of the work.
Well, I guess what I'm struggling with is why it's a legitimate extra. If the bid document said you have to move this cannon and the plaques and put it all back after you build the parking lot. And that was a condition that was discoverable by the contractor when they did the job.
Legitimate concern.
Why would it be?
Yeah,
Why would
no,
it be
it's
an
on the
extra?
town for the base. Yeah. It's not included.
Okay, so let's say we don't approve spending $5,000 on the base, what happens?
And it's not placed.
Is that how it is right now? Is it set, is the Canada practice sitting down the ground?
I don't know where it is. I assume it's there someplace.
By emails, it's, well, yeah. Will be kicked down the road.
I don't feel like I have enough information to make an informed decision on that one.
Sorry. Yep. It's just that, that's what's going on.
So is this time sensitive? Are they the ones that rebuild the base, or is it, you know, bid from someone else to rebuild the base?
We just have one bid from masonry for $5,000-ish to build the base for the monument. So it's not included in the project right now.
Okay, so it's something we could table to the next meeting, to get more information.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to table the monument base? So much.
Sorry.
All in favor?
I do have one more question on that. Is that monument inside the security fence or outside?
It's outside the security fence, but inside the property.
Okay, but the public could drive into the parking lot and view the monument if they wanted to.
Yes.
I can look into the history of it. All of that. Right now, they cannot replace it, so.
I'd like some more, it would be helpful for me if we had some more information about what was and wasn't specified in the contract documents, the plans. I mean,
I'll talk to Lance. He was not a part of that. He just was the conduit and get more information for you.
thanks.
What are our requirements, the number of bids we need to get for approximately 5,000? Do we only need one bid for a purchase? We need
Well,
three?
no, three.
Okay, so we probably need to go out for more bids to see.
The purchasing manual says if it's under $35,000, that the town needs to make an effort to solicit 3 estimates or 3 quotes.
But the newer policy says that it's more than 2,500, you have to get 3 estimates.
Make an effort to do that, yes. Wherever possible or something like that.
Right.
If it's under $35,000, bids not need to go out to formal bid. For state statute.
Okay, the street stripe painting change order #1. Can you get that up on the, or no, you can't get it? Okay. So that is in front of you. There is a item 21, which has green stripes and red stripes for painting. And I went out with YDOT and the FBO and witnessed the tie downs with the airplanes. And the way they had their striping with the red, you would have to require wing walkers every time you taxi in an airplane there. So we asked to change the apron marking as shown, which is a $5,500 change order that the FAA did approve. If you want to look at that layout.
So will they also approve their portion of the reimbursement?
Correct.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The other problem that we have out there is, and the FAA did approve, John, and I'm not roads and modes, so their water meter bolt is higher than the final elevation due to the fact that they had an incorrect vertical measurement in the beginning. And the FAA did go out and approve cutting it down 10 inches to the elevation where the pavement will be.
I'm in the wrong business.
I know.
Cut barrel of concrete water meter down approximately 10 inches.
Correct.
$5,600.
Yep.
Mike, you got a demo saw?
You can get her done.
Yeah, but
It's. How deep is it now? They're gonna affect, but could affect frost, freeze. I don't
From
know.
what I understand, the FAA is paying for it. There's no cost of the town.
Oh, it's deep.
But it was a incorrect measurement in the original design. Couldn't leave your location at the airport.
So we don't have to vote on that one at all.
No, mayor has to sign it.
permission for the mayor to sign motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we have all kinds of things for you, Mayor James. And we've already approved all these, just our portion that has been approved. 0% for our funding for some of them. The other ones are 4%. Percent. Yeah, 4%, 0%, 4%, 4%. With the to date. And 20% on the Y-dot. Which we discussed earlier and have previously, just need to have you prove what has been submitted.
This is the request for reimbursement.
Yeah. Did I miss anything, Marie? I mean, that's all that is reimbursement that we've already approved.
Four of them there, and then the last two are the invoices.
Invoices from stage. This is for the infant cert project.
All right, so request for reimbursement A, $44,826.25, zero cost to the town. Is that reimbursed by FAA? Correct? Yeah. Page number 70 on the bottom right corner.
Page 70. Yeah, 0% from us.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. RFRB, $119,179.62 and page 73. Sponsor share $4,767.18. Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye. Schedule C, $75,000, $272.59, sponsor share, $3,000.10, $3,010.90.
Second.
Aye. Motion to approve request for reimbursement B in the amount of $81,686.70 for the cost of the town of $16,337.84.
Second.
All in favor?
And knowing this all, it's not going out of the general fund, it's going out of the airport fund.
Now, what I can't figure out is why the total of those four. Did they do, hold on a minute. So the total of those four is, I added it up right, it's $320,000. And then we have invoices to Lewis and Lewis for 317 and Sage for 45. So I would have thought that those requests for reimbursements would have totaled the total of the two invoices.
On Dave's spreadsheet, the total is $362,699.29.
Have you seen that?
I can shoot it over to you. It's on an email you sent me.
Can you share that with the council, because when I go through these, I might look at
Yeah.
the invoice totals versus the percent completes. Well, I don't know, I can't tell without the spreadsheet gets there. That's a calculator.
So I just sent that to all of you. But on his spreadsheet, it shows the 4 reimbursements equal the 2 invoices.
Anyway, you can put that up on that screen. You get it on your computer, great.
On this last. That they gave us the Sage Engineering. Bottom of the page, do you have that sheet in front of you? Page number 80.
Okay.
It says reimbursables, 4,800, I'm assuming that's miles. That's 75 cents a mile for $3,600, but then down below the next slide, he's got. Never mind, the per diem is the 29 at $150. All right.
Well, can you answer the ambulance labor one for almost $10,000?
It's saved. That's probably for designing the monument.
Yeah, these. Before. Right, I think I know what's going on, that reimbursement. This. Those of you playing at home. Right, so. The reimbursement that's summarized on page 70, the first one we did. It's listed on our agendas as 44,826.25. I believe that should be 86,560.38. Which is the total. Sheet 70 in your packet.
Yeah.
If we plug that in, then the new total of all the reimbursements is 362,699.29. Which does total.
270 yeah. 362,699.29.
Okay, so we need to go back and revise our approval of agenda item 25. Is following?
Yeah, gotcha.
So make the motion to rescind the earlier motion to approve reimbursement A in the amount of 44,826.25.
There's a second. Motion just to rescind the previous motion.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
I make the motion to approve reimbursement ASA 044A in the amount of $86,560.38.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
I make the motion to pay Lewis and Lewis in the amount of $317,873.04. Make the motion to pay Sage Engineering in the amount of 44,826.25.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else for the report? Yeah.
This meeting is.
Okay. I'm moving on to swims.
No new updates. The next meeting is October 17th. and at the Saratoga Ambulance Park.
Okay. Is there any new business?
I just have a question. I was late, so maybe you guys already discussed this. Was there any more talk about what was happening at the subdivision on the end of airport?
No. So I did reach out to, Kristen and, I did ask Jane, so when they went through the final plat process, they bonded to finish the road, as one of the improvements that they had to do. When we signed the final plat, the right of way is actually become ours, but we've not accepted ownership of the roadway since they've not completed the improvements. Her recommendation was is that they do have open trenches and all that going across right of ways, all that they should install signage saying, road closed, construction zone, what have you. I did speak to Kristen and talk to her about that. I want to say the beginning of last week. And she was supposed to be bringing the signs up, but if they're not had a chance to look.
And I haven't either, so I'll look when I go home.
Okay, so, yeah, I did talk to her and that was my understanding, it was just probably signage needed. John, you might take a look at that too. And just see what you think up there, kind of if there's additional signage needed.
Thank you.
So. Okay, any other new business? Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved. Do we have to do something? We motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters in accordance with Wyoming statute 16-4-405A to enter.
All in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
in red, come back to some other company. So I call my credit card company and deny payment. But first, they give me a number on that. credit card. They thought, oh, it's been disconnected. I'm like, what is that? Oh, you found out too? Oh, okay, I'll approve that. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
I was trying to keep up with my paperwork. 'Cause
Your motion to exit executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright,
Is there any further business?
I got one thing quick. I forgot about it earlier. FEMA still wants to meet about the map deal. They're trying to come out and do one day and visit both the county and the town. So 10/5 got delayed. They're throwing out either 10/10, 10/17. Anybody have a preference or a desire to be there for that meeting?
I'd like to hear.
Okay.
I'll be out of town for,
It depends on the day, and because 17th I can't, 10 I can't.
17th you cannot, 10 you can. Okay.
I saw John Winters.
You said either works.
Other ones, I can see.
So I'll just tell them the 10th. Or if that's what works for you.
Yeah, and you could give me an idea on time, then you block out my calendar.
Okay. I'll email them tomorrow and tell them. And tell them keep us posted on what you work out with the county and we'll start time.
Thanks, Sean. Any other further business? The motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourns at 8:58. Next town council meeting will be on Tuesday, October 18th at 6 p.m. Thanks, guys.
I'm going to be back in town for that.
Okay.
Hello, I need signatures.
So I passed the invoice around, Grace got it for the machines for John
Motion's for John.
to buy stuff.
Okay. You don't want Thursday?
What's this one? Oh, the postcards.
Or is there a possibility?
So there's a whole list of items on that deal. We already bought some of
Yeah,
them.
I made a motion to do that 2-3 years ago.
On that number right there, it's a bill there that has a whole list of items on it, but we're just doing the one.
Jane question.
Yep, it was just a quote on how many cards.
Oh, I got you. I got
That was it.
you. You know what? You could only, but you'd only have to buy 5,000. The 4,999 and just not send me a bill. That'd be great.
Yeah, I just don't know if it can be different for one person.
Right, or optional.
Because I mean, the council can say, we are gonna make a motion to set the council salary to $0 a meeting. I know we can do that. But, because I tried,
Yeah.
but I don't.
I mean, it's more hassle for me to do my taxes.
That's a question, whether or not you think it's like.